The truth spilling from my tooth. I'm too official, I can't lose. Had her loose like she was sipping some Grey Goose. Blew that whistle like a flute. Keep it cute, don't confine me to a group. Breaking many cycles while they still moving in loops. Sipping my water reminds her of some erotical tropical fruit. Trying to offer insight, but they blinded by the lessons learned when they was a youth. Never try to change it, might be watching when you do what you do. Not as a brute, we bound to orchestrate a fluke after the uproot. Showing the power we all had to choose and decide our personal whys and who's the who. Exploring the many versions of you, give a purpose towards the blues. My focus is for the do's and don't. My hows and what I won't do is bound to keep my vessel when so true. I never compare myself to you. Took many breaks and make it through, baby. So focus on you. And focus on me too. Yeah, you know what to do, baby. Welcome to another episode of Fake Big Dick Energy. I have my co-host, the Fake Big Dick, over there. And I also have an interesting topic. So before then, I want to say thank y'all for showing love. If this is your first video, welcome. If you've been to 2 or 3 or 26, I fuck with you. I appreciate you for listening to me and giving me the time of day. Today is Sunday, so blessings to the Sundays. Sundays are beautiful and probably one of my favorite days, but I do have to work today, so that's why I got on my handy dandy robe. I love this robe. Beyond that, I feel like there's so many things in my life that's been cultivated that I can say I love now, and literally this time last year I didn't have that, so we give glory, give thanks, and all that. This topic gonna lead into all those things that accumulated in my mindset. I believe that helped me manifest this lifestyle. The topic is kind of interesting because it came from the song. The title of the song that I worked on this week was called Concrete, and I thought it was so interesting that God led me to an environment where I could record so much concrete. But I want to break this concept down in the ways to relate it back to humans and us being concrete. What does it mean for me to keep on building on stuff that's permanent and then, you know, not necessarily knowing how it will look in the end, but knowing that it's still worth it, because every move that I make is like, I can't go back and retrace it at this point. We're in the phase 28, about to be 29. My birthday is literally this week. So next time y'all see me, I'm gonna be 29. Listen, it's concrete. It's in the mold. And how that's something that I'm correlating into my lifestyle and how I want to advise, like some things that I've learned on my journey on it, is just some steps and tips that a lot of people might not mention, but I feel like for me it's helped me. First off, being concrete leads with you understanding what makes you you, understanding that material within you. And I feel like when it came to me, I knew that I could write. I knew that I can say things that probably a lot of people wouldn't say, and I knew that I can see things that people wouldn't usually see. Not saying that I'm like superhuman, because I feel like anybody that's tapped in or in tune to the environments, and like me being raised in rawness, you know, it allows me to be tuned in just off backs. But anyone can tune in from a book to just your lifestyle. So once you understand your environment, understand yourself through that environment and why you was placed there, I feel like after that aspect, that's when the concrete aspect come in, because now you get to create and mold whatever you want to create from your source. I see a lot of people that say, you know, I didn't come from this, or, you know, they feel like the cards that they're dealt doesn't mean that they could get a new hand, you know, in time and in mindset. And even me, I've been struggling with staying true to myself and what I came from, and understanding that I could still obtain and gain and move towards new developments in myself, even though that's not something that's the most comfortable for me. Being concrete for me meant that if I found one thing that worked for me, I'm going to stick to it. And we're going to break this down into 2 subdivisions, because I feel like there's work and then there's like love. So with work, y'all kind of seen that journey for me, like of knowing my worth, knowing exactly how I want to feel in work, and also dealing with people that come with contradictions or different aspects to how my work should look. And oh, shout out to Androids before we get into everything. This is just a molding and a concrete aspect as well, because this is officially my last video on my Android. So shout out to the S21. It's really done a great job, and I'm grateful for it. But I do have an iPhone, so we'll see next week how that looks. And even with those transformations, I feel like with work, I had to take that stepping stool. I had to start off in a job that probably wasn't the most aligned, but in the direction of what I wanted to do, because this year I had to take a step into a new version. How that feels, it felt like it didn't fit for me. Even up to the point of me driving the truck, and that could be subtle to some people, but some people never drive the type of vehicle that I drive. So that in itself, I've never seen anyone do it. I remember a couple months ago, before I had a home, my dad was telling me, "Hey, you want to do the van life? You know, I'll get you a Sprinter." And I'm like, "Oh, that big ass truck! I'm scared to drive on the roads with those." And the fact that I'm driving it like 4 days out the week now, for hours and hours, probably accumulation of up to 40 hours a week now. It's just so amazing. And it's crazy how your own potential will show you your worth once you move in the direction of gaining what you know you deserve. I feel like there's going to be a lot of times when you don't know you can do things. But if you concrete and you believe yourself to be solid, then you just keep on moving, keep on cultivating. And when you really pay attention to concrete, it's thick, right? It's like not translucent. You can't really see through it. It's not necessarily clear. But once it sits in one space, that's when it cultivates as something that's so indestructible. Like almost nothing could destruct it. But once it's accumulated, like when you think about, for example, if it's like a wall now, so it's accumulation of all these constructs built together to make something. So for example, like with me and going back to work, so many things was accumulated before I had the capacity to even do this job. But now, because it's like a wall or like a substance or something for me to gain from now, or something that I can show the world, because I put in enough work into myself to do things that I didn't know I could do. So now the world is kind of like giving me that reassurance and like building things in my environment that now I could show, oh, this is something that makes me different from another person. Now I'm starting to separate myself. Now my building is looking different. It's looking like me. And it's still brick. Like all of us humans, we still are made of the same things, the same emotions that make you feel like you can't, and the same emotions that make you know that you can. But it's about your mindset. And that's something that I've been kind of like balancing, because when you have obligations, for example, you have a deadline to complete whatever needs to be concrete or built. And like, for example, me, I have obligations that's in correlation to like a deadline. So when I have obligations like bills or a family now, because that's things that accumulated, my job has to stand. Like, you know what I'm saying? Even if it's not necessarily as like, if the concrete ain't as solid as I would like it to be, I still have to keep on placing more bricks on that concrete and keep on moving at a pace so that it can continue to evolve in what I want. And I like to be metaphoric, because God gives me these symbols. Like all my messages come through symbols and things that translate within a week. And I also like to speak on those energies, because I know it's not me just dealing through it. And I know it's a lot of people, like my lover. I've seen her endure and go through so many things where she literally didn't know the answer. And I also had to mention to her that sometimes you can sit there and put in all the work. Like I'm saying, I'm putting in those concretes, and I see that the it's not necessarily as dry as I want it to be, but I can't slow down my pace. Guess what? For me it might hold up. For me, that might be exactly what my building needed. But for some people, you can't control it. It'll just start sliding apart. Those bricks will fall apart if it's not placed at the right velocity and velocity, and just in the right amount of force and placement. If it's not assured, then everything can fall apart. And those same materials that can build for me can be something that breaks you down. So I was telling my lover, like, when you go through so many journeys and you know your worth, you know the things that you're trying to aim towards, but it's like those things are still like, it's just not formulating. That's a phase. Like, I really truly believe that everyone that built had to have something that was leaning or crooked before they could acknowledge. Hold on, right, y'all. Please, y'all, I apologize for that. I had to go tend to my family, to my love. But back to the topic, sometimes that's not promised. Like sometimes I've seen people and it's like, how do you have the same material as me, but you can't cultivate it in the way that I'm cultivating it? That's the truest power. That's the magic. That's the part that you are in control of, because some very much times you can try as much as you want and that is just not the season for that to go through. Like I've been a barista for years. Y'all know that. Maybe I don't know if this phase of Kayla spoke about, you know, how many years I put into making drinks. But that was my talent that made me different initially. And for some reason, like just coming here, or uh, even it started transforming even in last year, because opportunities to make a coffee was available, but just not for me. No matter what I did with the qualifications and all those things, it just would not be a fit for me. Oh goodness, the door. One more minute. We gonna get through this message, y'all. This is how the mornings are usually, and I definitely wanted to just still force the time into this to get my topic expressed, because I know this for somebody, even if it's just for me in like 2 weeks or so, just to remind myself where I was at. But long story short, it was just not working. Like I could not find the opportunity that at one point literally sustained me. Like I was working solely as a barista to pay my bills by myself. And now I can't find a job to really supplement it after I've already had the experience. Why is that? Man, I could have thought that, you know, my bricks in that moment was just falling apart. You know what I'm saying? But I still had the right tools, because like I mentioned, I had to have certain type of qualities that I learned from being a barista to even get to my phase of where I'm at right now. You can't start building and assume that just because you have the material now, or that you're building it in a stature, that it still don't take that time and that patience and that waiting to endure and to get to a certain level. You can never get, I could, if this level was me at my job now, I could have never got there unless I built those levels of working at Jamba Juice, then freaking Smoothie King, then motherfucking Starbucks. You know what I'm saying? Like those, it seems like just other jobs, but with every job, it was more opportunity, more endurance for me now to be so multitasking. And I truly believe my multitasking trait is the only thing that allowed me to do this job. I'm going to tie it around to something that happened to me yesterday, and something that brought so much insight to me. Little did I know, there was this guy that created wood art, and the talent that takes. You know, you're getting your stuff sourced from parts and stuff like that. So, you know, telling what's in the wood off backs, but he takes the wood and he creates such, oh, I'm gonna show y'all just, I have to show y'all just one beautiful piece. I have to, so y'all get an idea. This is his form of concrete. This is his form of endurance, because this piece, by the way, is called Popular, and he's literally so dope. Shout out to him. Jacksonville based, and it's just so cute because he has a thing where he like actually marks the date that it was created, and all of that, like pretty much makes it his. And this is something that came from a park. Like this is something that took months to cultivate. This, a bowl that I might put cereal in. But what it took to create this and this smoothness, months. He said sometimes, you know, you have to break it down and mold it, let it sit for 4 months, because it needs to dry. If it's not dry, then it will crack. If it's still wet, it'll crack. And that's so strange to me, because even with concrete, when it's still wet in that molding period, there's still an aspect of waiting. There's still an aspect of letting time do the job. And even with work, even here, there's phases and there's processes that I feel like when you really concrete, you really standing on something, sometimes that means you just have to fucking wait. Sometimes things take time and years, and that don't mean that you're not doing it the right way, but you have to do it that same way for years for things to cultivate. They don't talk about the times when you have to find money to get this material and, you know, still trying to make it happen. Like they don't speak about those aspects, but you have to know exactly why it's worth it for you to make those investments, because I'm sure all the tools that was needed for him to create this, he couldn't have known that the piece would have come out like this when he first started. I'm pretty sure he didn't even know it was going to look like this to the end, because even with all my forms of work, I don't know exactly what I'm getting until I continue to move towards it. Trust my intuition. My intuition knows more than me. And same with you. Tightest conversation all around. Um, this ruins, it tarnishes when it's wet. He was a vendor at an event that I went to yesterday, and for some reason, I'm gonna just mention this. Literally, water came from the ceiling. There was a tornado, and it was sunny out in Jacksonville. And then the next morning, it was a tornado. The next minute, it was a tornado watch. And out of everyone, literally probably almost 50 vendors, him, only him, the ceiling came, psh, water spewing through it like you would think it's a movie, all over his wood stuff after we bought this. But what that meant to me, what that felt like to me is, for example, I felt that feeling so many times. But let's mention, for example, at my job, hey, don't worry about my lock. Don't try my locks, okay? Because if y'all really got mature locks, because I'm looking at this lock, this baby need a little help. I'm gonna help her out. I was looking for her. Don't try my locks. Because the endurance, this is just another correlation. The time that it took to even grow this, you hoes could never. You hoes get the big chop right here. Y'all think it's a big chop when it's right here. Look at all these. This like 5 years right here, bitch. Y'all can never. But long story short, it's not about, that was just for the haters. If y'all fucking with my hair, then I love y'all. Thank y'all. We're going to get it together, and it's going to keep on growing, and it's going to keep on being concrete. And in those moments, even in those moments where it seems weak, I'm going to tie this around because I don't want this video to be too long. But I watched him. He could have been like, man, this is the end of my world. My stuff, all my pieces could be tarnished. $200 pieces, like $100 pieces. Everything can be tarnished. But in that moment, he was able to see all the people around him that could help, because everybody, not me, I was so like in a shock, but he had so many people there helping him. It showed him how valuable his stuff was outside of just the process. Now, after this process is accumulated and you created and you teaching all these people, when people saw that water coming through, we already knew, oh, water and wood don't mix. I know you can do whatever you need to do to, preserve it or whatever the case may be, but it don't mix. And all these people hopped in to show him now something that you could create out of nothing, holding value that none of us gonna make sure this get ruined. Like 6-7 people sitting there helping him pull his tables and get his stuff. And to the point where he smiled even in that moment. Tied all around. Like when I quit my job, my boss was like, oh, so you ain't gonna do it. She wanted me to sweat her, like, trip about that. And I said, man, I ain't sweating, I ain't tripping. I'm gonna just go home, find my go about my ways. And now to receive blessings, little treatments that reassures me that I should have left. It's like people will support you when you're in the right lane. When you're concrete, the way that you know that you're in the right lane, because sometimes you have to endure through things that might make you change your mind. The way that you know you're in the right lane is how people react to you. If you're in the right lane for you, people are going to respect you. They're going to appreciate you. They're going to acknowledge you. Even if you're doing something like taking out trash. Thank you, trash man. When I see my trash man, I always tell him thank you. Because you're doing the job that I can't do. Everybody is doing something that the other person can't do. Even if it's other people making podcasts, nobody could do it like me with a scar on my chin, about to get the word, organizing and cultivating it like I am. Switching from Android to iPhone. Those things seem simple, but those are all makings of the process that has to be built. It just has to take time. And I just wanted to mention that because sometimes when you're in the process of that taking time, that's the hardest part. That's harder than putting in work. But if you know why you're doing it, then it'll always be worth it. So remember, sometimes it's more than just you. You have to cultivate things for so much more outside of you. And if you don't give it an opportunity, you will never know your power. But you are powerful. If nobody else told you that, I'm telling you that. And I know that because you're on my video. And you still watching it right now? Go ahead and like it, y'all. I see y'all next week. I love y'all for listening. I hope y'all was able to gain something. And I feel like even in the process of molding, it's so much to learn. So I'm so grateful for time. I'm so grateful for the process. And I'm so grateful for you. I see y'all next week.